It's July 21st at 6 o'clock, and I'd like to call this Board of Education meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening, and if you would please stand for the flag. Salute. I allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have before you a recommended agenda. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? No recommended change. Hearing no, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion from Tom and a second from Kristin. All in favor? Unanimous. First on our consent agenda is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve as published? So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Kristin and a second from Tom. All in favor? Unanimous. Motion passes. Next is our public participation. And I would first like to read our policy. The next item on the agenda is public participation. Board policy BCBI sets forth the rules for public participation, and copies are available on the back table. Anyone requesting to speak to the board must sign a form indicating that they have read and will follow the requirements of the policy. Tonight, 4 people have requested to speak to the board. Public participation is designed to allow citizens to speak to the board, and board members do not respond during this part of the agenda unless they have specific questions for the presenter. First on our list is Brian Pounds.
Good. Thank you, members of the board. First, can you hear me okay with the mask on? Or if I push the button?
If you would like to take off the mask, you're welcome to.
Thank you. And I pushed the button, so hopefully you can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay, good. Great. Time limit is 5 minutes. Is that what I understand?
It's actually 3 minutes.
3 minutes. I'll move more quickly then. All right, first, thank you very much. I stand before you as a parent. My wife and I are here tonight with, and we have 3 children in the school system. We also stand, I think, representing a lot of the views of parents in the school system that were shared in the survey. The survey results that were provided more than 2 months ago listed that 1/3 to 1/2 of parents were extremely concerned about returning under the current policy. When the new policy came out and was approved last month, there was very little change to that. The primary concern I'd like to put before you for myself and other parents is around the mask policy. You know, I wear my mask to protect you, you wear your mask to protect me. And when it is optional, even if it's promoted, even if it's highly recommended, it does become an option and it becomes subject to views that aren't necessarily medical based. And to put children in an environment with this virus without mandating it, I think presents a lot of risk. Specifically around peer pressure and bullying. And if it is not mandated, there is the opportunity that we're going to end up with more cases than we like. Obviously, the statistics around this are changing. We know that even within our county, we have hospitals that are on diversion now. So my ask for consideration to the board is to again consider this policy around masks to make it mandatory and to consider the timeline by which we're working under. I do think that parents would rally to support if this was a budget constraint, either through funding or through making masks. I do believe that parents would rally to support temperature checks to help at school entry. So there are things that we can do as a community that I think could help protect the students under the current policies.
Okay,
Thank you.
very much. Next on our list is Kristin Trail. I don't know if I pronounced the last name correctly. Trolley. Okay. That was my first guess.
She was right.
Yes.
I can take this.
Again, you are 6 feet away from everyone, so just press the little button there and the green light will come on. No, it's red. Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
is that good?
Yes.
All right, so I wasn't prepared to speak at this meeting, but after this gentleman has spoken, then mine kind of plays off of that. The mask thing, school starting back, I've seen what the other counties are doing and they're going all virtual. Me, myself, and I speak for myself, am a single grandmother raising my grandson who has special needs. If schools don't go back, these younger kids cannot learn virtually. He's going into 1st grade. He's already behind. ADHD, PTSD, separation anxiety, abandonment disorder. The list goes on. 31-page report. These younger kids need to be in school. Mask. You can't wear a mask. When y'all gave the option of not wearing a mask or what, that worked out great for me. He puts on a mask. He makes it from the car to his therapist, from the car to in to see the doctor for medication. That's about it before he has a panic attack. Masks don't work for everyone. I've been out here working in this from day one. If we go total virtual and these kids can't get back in school, I'm done. I've got to leave a job. I don't get help from the government. I don't get state assistance. I came straight from work to make it here to this meeting. These kids deserve and need to be in school. They need to see these teachers. They need social with their teachers, with their peers, whatnot. These older kids, these high schoolers, let them do virtual. Spread these elementary kids out throughout all these big high schools that we have. I've been a Forsyth County resident since I was a teenager, and the kids need to go back. Mask or no mask, it's not, they need to get back. They really do. I appreciate you listening to me. I'm just one of many. I fought hard for this little boy, and I'm going to keep on fighting. But I'm not going to lose everything I have to keep him at home because I'm not a school teacher. I didn't go for that. He needs to be taught by a certified teacher.
Thank you so much, Ms. Stratton. Next on our list is Heather Tatum.
Is it on?
Yes, very much.
Perfect. Hello, we moved here last year to this county for one reason, and that was the schools. I searched the entire state and found that the school system was known to be one of the best. So we moved here. So I wanted to talk about the concerns and the stress of not knowing if the county is going to fall in line with other counties and cancel face-to-face education altogether. The stress of not knowing is taking a toll on our families. I would like the board to make a strong commitment that you will not change your final guidelines that have already been given to the families so that we no longer have to stress about it and we can move on with preparing our children and our families to start school. Dr. Bearden, you said that the social and emotional well-being of our students is critically important, and we cannot deliver the services that we need if they're at home. I wholeheartedly agree with that, and I support that. The mental health of our children is very important, and they need to be in school to live up to all of their potential. Now, as far as the masks, wearing masks, you are 23 times more likely to touch your face. Touching your face transmits quite a lot. As a nurse, I know this. I do not agree with mandating masks. It is not an appropriate choice for every family and every student, as we just heard. I would also like for there to be a zero tolerance policy on bullying regarding masks from students and teachers. I've heard from many students that want to wear masks that they are afraid they're going to be singled out for doing so. My daughter, she's at the high school. She does not want to wear a mask, neither does my elementary student. My daughter is terrified that teachers will quietly bully her, grade-wise or assignment-wise or opportunity-wise, because she doesn't want to wear a mask. So on both sides of the fence, the children are concerned about that. So in closing, I would like to state again that I would like a strong commitment from the board to not change the final guidelines that have already been distributed. Thank you.
And our last presenter tonight is William Rich.
Good evening. And I know the board has a very hard decision to make. It's been very difficult. No one could anticipate what we've gone through over the past 6 months. I have 3 children in the schools. I have a grade school, and then 2 middle school. My middle child is special needs. He is high level autistic. And I do have concerns about going back to school, but also have major concerns about not going back because I don't think that they can do as well being virtually. But I do think that masks have to be mandated at this point. I do realize that there may be certain situations with children that are in a special education or something that panic or something like that. But the other thing is, I'm a 6-year rectal cancer survivor. I am also diabetic. So I have concerns about sending my children in, but I feel I have to. But I think with the mask and what we've seen, the statistics and everything, our masks help stop it. They stop the virus. We've seen, up in New York where it stopped, because people were isolating, wearing masks, and I think we have to. But that's my opinion. I realize that there are special circumstances, but I believe that masks need to be mandated with certain exceptions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the end of our public participation. At this time, we will start with our presentation and discussion items. And we will have an art update from Steve Strawn and Michaela Klasnitz.
How are you today?
Good evening and I want to thank you for welcoming us here today. Thank you, Board of Education members, and thank you, Dr. Bearden, for your time this evening. We wanted to give you a quick update on ARC, and thank you for your support. And I want to assure you that it is a great model for us, whether we are in school, in brick and mortar schools, or whether we are virtual with our students this year. Our essential questions are quite straightforward. What is our focus with ARC? It is to engage our students. It is also for our students to become proficient readers. And how is that accomplished? It's accomplished through a rich reading culture and through IRLA expert coaching that our teachers provide for our students. It's also accomplished through standards-based instruction and through a collaborative culture that also meets the goals that we have. We also incorporate the governance goals with ARC. Goal 2 is effectively met when we teach the whole child in ARC. We focus on the whole child through a balanced literacy framework that is so expertly crafted through the ARC experiences. Teachers are empowered to support the child no matter what level that child is working within. We know that ARC provides personalized learning experiences. It also provides social emotional learning experiences, because when that teacher is working with that child one-on-one in a conferencing setting, we know those social emotional learning needs are being met. It also provides whole group experiences that teach those state standards that our students need. And we know that they're given time to practice those standards in an individual way. Goal 3 is also met, effective in financial planning. As a matter of fact, this year, we've really put that into practice because we were able to take monies that we were unable to use with professional learning and move that money over into resources this year. And we were able to purchase SchoolPace Connect for all of our schools, all of our students. And all of that money and all of those resources will serve our students in being able to provide additional digital books and support toolkits. And that will serve not only our students who are in our school buildings, but also our students who are learning digitally. We're excited about that process. Next, I want to turn your attention to some of our data. When our students enter our schools, we always start by leveling our kiddos. But we don't just stop at leveling them. We always want to make sure that the levels are accurate for our students. So we do accuracy checks. In each classroom, we check the accuracy of about 20% of each classroom. We found out in our data that 87% of our students are leveled accurately. That's a very high percentage. What does that mean? That means that our students are doing the right work. We also know that when we set our power goals, our students, of all of our students, 99% of them have the right power goals. So they're doing the right work. We served over 10,000 students in ARC in grades kindergarten, first, and third last year. For kindergarten, it was their second year of implementation. For first and third, it was their first year of implementation. So they were learning and they were growing as teachers in ARC. But as you can see, even with COVID crisis, we had almost 80% of our students at proficient. We still have work to do. We're still growing in ARC, but we're very proud of the work that our teachers were doing.
In dual language immersion, we believe exactly what we believe for our English dominant learners. We want to make sure that we provide biliteracy in both languages to all of our dual language immersion learners. So we adhere exactly to the same balanced literacy framework provided by ARC. We want to make sure that teachers have a tool at hand where they can individually really identify what skills the students have and what are the next steps that they have to take in both languages, in English and in Spanish. So we do also accuracy level checks, and we also provide power goals, just like in English, to make sure that they advance in their Spanish skills. The data that you see here is only for our Spanish dominant students in kindergarten and first grade. What you can see there, even though we expected somewhat of a delay based on DLI research, is that they are already comparable to what we see in the English classroom, no matter what educational background our students are coming from. So ARC has really given us that tool to identify and to provide next steps for our students in Spanish and in English to make sure that they achieve that high level of biliteracy in both languages.
The next part of data that we want to show you is our early district data by grade level. Again, when the students come in, we level them and we want to see where they are in proficiency. So what you see before you is the data for the beginning of the year and at the end of the year and where our students were with their proficiency. Look at kindergarten for just one moment. Our students were at 86.9% proficiency in September. In May, that increased to 87.4%. Now, that doesn't seem like a real large, doesn't seem like it grew that much, but consider our teachers were extraordinarily proficient at what they were doing in their second year. We also were hit with the COVID crisis, and we believe that if we had our students in our buildings, we would have had a much larger percentage of growth in that. So we didn't see all of our students in that growth. First grade, our students went up to first grade and they had had a really great year in kindergarten, so they were extraordinarily proficient. Again, we see really good growth in first grade. Again, we believe we would have had greater growth had we had them in our buildings. Look at third grade. I'm glad you see that. I have to tell you that, you know, we started third grade, and yes, we were looking at that data initially. We were concerned, but we found a lot of gaps in our third grade students in their skills. But what did we do? We rose to the challenge and we met the needs of those students in third grade. Our third grade teachers really grew in this. Our students really grew because of ARC.
And was this the first year those particular third graders have been in ARC, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That was my question, because the other, like in kindergarten now, they're building on it each year, right? So you
Right.
can see that big
Yes.
jump.
And I'm excited about this because this year we're going to be implementing second grade. So we have another layer coming into place that's going to help fill that gap. Plus, our third grade teachers are ready for this year. They understand that our students will be coming in with gaps. They're prepared for this. They're not going to be taken by surprise. But I love it because IRLA helps us to identify the gaps, and we're now prepared to help students with those gaps. Look at the growth. Isn't it exciting? We're ready.
Want to do this. They're preparing even they haven't been doing it. They're ready for it.
They're ready. They're ready. I wanted you to see that. I'm excited about that. And then lastly, we want to show you what Forsyth looks like on a national comparison. Forsyth led in national comparisons in all monitored ARC metrics in the last school year. I won't read all of that to you. You can see that for yourselves. I am just thrilled to know that we are leading the nation in ARC, in what we're doing. We're at the top. And that is the work of our hardworking students, our hardworking parents. We're going to continue to lead this charge. We're going to continue to support our students and to teach them well. And I want to thank you for your support of ARC, because we're doing right by our students and we're doing the right work with American Reading Company as our partner. And then lastly, our next steps. This year, we will implement ARC fully in second grade. And in addition, we were able to reallocate money again so we can bring IRLA, the independent reading level assessment, to our 4th and 5th grade ELA teachers. We have that training coming up soon. And then next year, we will fully implement ARC in 4th and 5th grade across the district. And then we will be fully implemented with ARC by the end of next year. So we are excited, and I want to thank you very much for your time.
I have a little firsthand experience. My grandson was a kindergartner.
Yes.
And I have to say, when he first started in his reading, I was like, no, this is weird. I mean, because it's not how we all learn.
It's different.
So
Yeah.
it is. But in 2 months, it was amazing. And I'm all in for the art now.
Well,
it
you know.
It was amazing.
That's right. You know, and like I said at the beginning of the presentation, we want them to be excited about reading, and they do. They are just thrilled. I know Dr. Bearden has been out in our schools, and we were there at the same time many times, and you can see the enthusiasm that the students have for reading.
It really is.
And-
And the teachers, both new
And the
old,
teachers.
like experienced teachers and the new teachers are open to it.
Yes.
But I think something quite about this has been an investment over years, and even in a year like this, where our budget has been a significant challenge like no other, this is something that we still made the commitment and kept the commitment to investing in this program. We feel it's that much that important for our students.
And I thank you so much for that. Thank you very much. Any questions at all? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Next on our agenda is Tom Wenning, and he's going to give us a construction update.
Good evening.
Oh, look, he's still there. I know, it's a little bit there.
It's a construction thing, you know. So as an executive summary, great news, all of the construction projects that were scheduled to be complete for this school year opening already. So starting with kind of the highlight feature, Pools Mill. And I think really this lobby is illustrative of a few things. One, design enhancements. I think Greg Pruitt did a phenomenal job. You'll see that. We're excited with Saturday's grand opening. Certainly the last 4 months have been challenging to everybody. That's not unique to construction. Was tough, so Carol Daniel did a great job delivering this. Paige Andrews, as you see the mural, a lot of customized real tributes, right, to the Pools Mill neighborhood and community with the grist mill, the Pirates, and FF&E, even Brad Richardson. You see the furniture enhancements kind of taking it to the next level. I think we'll have the ceremony in the cafeteria, so that's a shot of the cafeteria. Media Center, nice. You know, you're not in the 21 other elementary schools, right, when you see that. So, and really cost effective as well. This, obviously, the front entry lobby and enhanced security entrances and vestibules. The outside of that, again, the stone tribute to the neighborhood. So, little sneak peek of what you'll see for Saturday. Looking forward to it. So this is an example of the middle school security vestibules that will be done all in time for opening. This is obviously Liberty with the mural, but representative of all of the middle schools and security vestibules. This is an example of the CTAE lab renovations. We've done that at 7 middle schools, and the real tribute there is fairly simple, but hard to do in 6-7 weeks. So CBI, a local contractor a mile down the street, did those. So it's great to see local participation in our program. And similarly, this is an expansion to the lunchroom, which under a normal circumstances is not a big deal other than when it's done in 8 weeks. And obviously, again, CBI did a great job getting this done prior to the students' return. So we're excited about that. Similarly, at a lot of our middle schools in Denmark, added greenhouses. That happens to be a rabbit barn. Behind that one, that's unique to Otwell. So customized, everybody's doing a little something different. And that's kind of a nice enhancement at a lot of our schools. So those are the return to school projects. Hendricks obviously being delivered next year, but you see significant progress. We're well on our way to opening that. Get a little break maybe for a week and then go back to what's due next year, right? So I think we covered everything on the elementary school and middle school, with the exception of really the last job in our program for the capital program of 18, and that is elementary school 23. So we're extremely well positioned. We have gone and through the legal the legal approval of our procurement process. Georgia Department of Education has approved the design. So we will be releasing that RFP August 3rd. That allows for a 30-day procurement process, September 3rd return. We evaluate, we interview. The intent is to make the recommendation to you for the next general contractor for that project at the next board meeting. So that concludes the middle schools and elementary schools. Going to East Forsyth High School, significant progress over the past month, not only for the building and the site, as you see the roof now on, you see much of the exterior envelope complete. And in this first area of the sequence, interiors is rapidly proceeding. Just a different view. You see the CTAE construction building in the lower left. Really beautiful site coming together. So in the lower right-hand corner is our softball field. The football field sits above that in the background. A little closer shot of football. You see that rapidly proceeding. And we've even got the school spirit going with the scoreboard up. So that's a touch there. Closer to home, looking out the window. The good news there, what we needed to do, right, was to get all of the infrastructure, the paving, the additional parking spaces, the landscaping, and all the MEP tie-ins from the new ACE and PAC building that interface with our campus done before we all come back, in August. We're just a few days away from that. You've seen the fence up if you look out the window, landscaping done. So that was just a critical, logistical piece to our campus operations. In terms of the project itself, you'll see now, fortunately, Focal Performing Arts Center is now topped out. The crane left yesterday, so that's a nice milestone for us there. In the background, you see ACE rapidly proceeding. As you repeatedly hear me say, the next mission here is to get dried in right before winter weather comes, and then we've got the standard 3-4 months of interior finishes. So ACE turns over next school year, and then the Performing Arts Center, more of a complicated project, looking to complete that in the fall. So we're on schedule with that. Just a couple different vantage points of that project. The only job we didn't cover then is West Forsyth High School, again, ready for opening. Cooper, another great local company a mile down the street, fortunately was involved with local participation on the project. Got CO in March, furniture. That completes where we're at. Any comments, questions?
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Next is the finance report with Larry Hamill.
Good evening. Tonight we're going to cover the June 2020 financial report. With all the financial reports, we always keep goal 3 in mind. Make me effective with both the budgeting and how we spend our money. So first up is the statement of cash receipts and disbursements for the month of June. Just to bring your attention, we started the month at $98.6 million. We ended the month at 82.9. This time last year, we had $64 million. So you can see we're definitely up. Now we'll get to more of that later. Revenue has been coming in strong. We are not seeing the kind of drops other counties are seeing across the state or the federal government. And we'll cover that more later on. On the year-to-date budget report on the revenue detail, the great news here is that we're at 101.14% collections. This time last year, we're at 98.82. Just a few highlights. You'll notice that the ad valorem tax is at 99.38. Last year, we're at 98.6. And another one I just kind of want to point out to you is the TVAT is over 100% collections. We were at 92.49 last year. And the TVAT came in as good as it was this time last year as well. So we are seeing everything back to normal. Some of the things we got to be aware of going next year with the budget we had talked about earlier is that we are not going to see the same kind of interest earned as we did this year. As you can see, if it hadn't dropped off like it had with the interest rates dropping since January, we probably would have easily have made the $1.3 million that we had budgeted. One other thing you want to point out to you is the QBE earnings. The reason that amount is greater than what the state gave us is the difference between the accruals. So we had last year's July accruals we back off. We have this year's July accruals we had on. And the difference between the 2 months of accruals was almost $2.9 million to our favor. I'm seeing a question. Okay. On the expense side, this time last year, we were at 99.83%, so we're below that. Now, I will say that one of the things that we received as a school system because of the CARE Act was we got $1.7 million. In order to utilize that money as fast as possible and get that cash in our bank account, what we did was we went ahead and applied for the 1.7 prior to June. So if you look under transportation, you'll see they're only at 88.57%. That's because we applied for $1.7 million of expenditures that cover transportation cost for the last 3 or 4 months. And so the way it worked was we had to actually take that expense out of the general fund and move it to a new fund called CARE Act Fund 420. And that reduced the expense by that amount. As you can see though, the revenue, the expenses year to date were under budget by $5.3 million. Part of that's at 1.7 we moved out. The rest is the savings we had in the last several months with everything going on with water and electricity and all that stuff. So if you look at the $5.5 million that we had more in revenue and the $5.3 million less expenditures, plus the $3.9 million we had, or $3.8 million we had already built into the budget, we're coming in about $14.5 million better than we had expected for this year. So that's money we're adding to our fund balance. And then we looked at the next slide with cash balances. As you can see, these are the cash balances for the different debt service accounts. This time last year, we had a 25.7 in our debt service account. We had only 7.6 in our SPLOS 5 account. And we did have a little bit more in SPLOS 5. Of course, that's money that we're using to pay for our debt service. So overall, this time last year, we had about $44.9 million. If you look at our investment activity, it's quite high. One of the reasons is if you look under Fund 306, we had issued the 2020 bonds. So a lot of that money is still in there. This time last year, we had about $205 million. And of course, the last year we have spent a ton of money out of the 306 fund, the 2018 bond money was. So it was replenished by the 220 bond money. The next thing we always like to talk about is how SPLOST doing. So as you can see, the total average for SPLOST for the several months we've been collecting it for the for the SPLOST 5 is 3.34 million, almost 5. The last 12 months is higher than that at 3.46. So this time last year, we were at 3.289 million collections average. So we're up just on average alone by $60,718. For the last 12 months, we're up $177,000 in collections on average. And the difference between the total average in the last 12 months is we're up $116,000 per month collections just in the last 12 months compared to what the over average is. So we are definitely not seeing the kind of dramatic changes that the state is seeing in places like APS, Cobb, Fulton, and Gwinnett. The receipts in here are for May. We have not finished the June closeout for all the schools. We will give that to you on a further presentation next month and catch you up on the June receipts, but these are the May ones. Right now, based on what we are seeing for the month of June, everything seems to be as normal as can be for not having activity for the school level, but the cash balance is staying where it normally has stayed, which is about the $2.8 million range right now for the end of the month of May. That is financials for the month of June 2020. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you very much for your questions. At this time, we will move into action items, and our first item is to approve the FY21 budget. I will turn it over to Dr. Bearden.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Before I turn it over to Larry, just want to make a couple of comments on our FY21 budget. First of all, I do want to thank Larry and the entire team in finance, all of our department heads, all of our principals for their work and cooperation in putting this proposal before you tonight. It was really a great team effort. As you know, because of the pandemic and the economic downturn, our state aid was reduced by approximately $23 million, Larry, is that correct? $23 million. So in spite of that significant reduction in state funds, I'm really pleased to present a budget to you tonight that will result in no loss of student days for the 2021 school year and no reduction of work days for any of our employees for the 2021 school year. If you had asked me a month ago, I would have told you that was probably going to be impossible. But as Larry presented to you tonight, things are working out better for us in terms of revenue. We're doing better than we expected. But I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge and thank the members of our local legislative delegation who met with us a couple of weeks ago and helped us find some creative solutions in order that we might present a budget with no furlough days. And I really appreciate them coming forward and partnering with us to make that happen. A lot of people don't see the tremendous synergy that exists between the Board of Education and our legislative delegation. I want to assure all the citizens of our community, we work hand in hand with our delegation. They're very supportive of us and again, tried to and did come to us with a solution to help us balance this budget And again, no reduction in student days, no reduction in work days for our employees. So I'm really pleased with that. And I'd be remiss also if I didn't thank all of you for your support during this process. Another thing that happens behind the scenes that the public doesn't see is you guys have spent a lot of time with Mr. Hamill, either one-on-one or two at a time, making sure all your questions were answered, coming up with your own recommendations on what we could do to make sure we put together the best possible budget to take care of the needs of our students. So just thank you very much for your support and your team effort in working with us to make that happen. So I'm going to turn it over to Larry. I know you've heard this several times now because we've had 3 budget hearings, but he can quickly recap the scenario, and then I'd ask you to approve the budget for FY21. Mr. Hamill. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm just minimize it, that's fine. So back to the this year 2021 final budget presentation. I would like to go to this page right here. So the recommendation tonight, with your approval, is to approve the 2020 budget expenditure of $494,438,169.
I would recommend approval, but before I do that, I just want to point this out to the public. You see the FY21 revenues over expenditures. You see $22,766,000. That's what's coming out of our fund balance to balance this year's budget. That's a very, very significant decrease in our fund balance. We as a governance team are going to take probably a couple of years in order to get that back to where it needs to be. And when I say where it needs to be, the board understands this, but I want the community to understand we need a fund balance of about 15% to keep our AAA bond rating. It's incredibly important to us as taxpayers to have that AAA bond rating because we get a much better interest rate when we put bonds out for school construction. And so it will take some time to build this back up, but that is our commitment to make that happen. And again, I so appreciate the board's willingness to dip in the fund balance by this amount so that we can take care of our students and employees. And with that, I recommend approval.
We have a recommendation, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Kristin and a second from Tom. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes. Once again, we'll turn it over to Dr. Bearden for the approval of the FY21 millage rate.
Okay, once again, we've had several millage rate hearings. Larry, where is it on here? Just so I get the right, oh, right there, I got it. Thank you. I would recommend we maintain the current M&O millage rate at 17.3 and our debt service at 2.418.
We have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do we have a motion? We have a motion from Tom and a second from Kristin. All in favor? Yes, I'm sorry if there was another question for discussion. Hearing none. Motion passes. Next, again, is Dr. Bearden, and you have the approval of the 2020-21 school calendar.
Okay, thank you once again. In a moment, I'm going to ask Mr. Perkle, our Deputy Superintendent of Schools, to come up and go through the details of our calendar. As you know, that is his responsibility. He works with you and our staff in order to present a calendar to you. And we do have an amended calendar we're asking you to consider tonight. Afterwards, I'm going to ask Ms. Rice, our Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, to come up and explain what we're going to do with the additional planning days if you approve this calendar. I also want to say, because I know there's, not only folks in the audience, but people watching online right now, we, meaning the governance team, the board and I, have received literally probably thousands of emails over the last couple of weeks. And I hope our community understands it's virtually impossible for us to respond to every one of those. But I do want our community to know that we read them all. And we listen to our constituents, we listen to our community. We know, as we heard tonight, there's various opinions on how we should do things. But I want to say to our community that the recommendations I have made to date and the recommendations I will make going forward are solely based on data, and the data from Forsyth County. I had the opportunity to meet face-to-face with Dr. Redfield from the CDC, as well as Dr. Burks from the Coronavirus Task Force. Both of them made it very clear to me that local school systems should be making decisions about how to open and when to open based on their local data. They made that very clear, based on your local data. And yes, there are guidelines out there, but those guidelines were not put in place to prohibit you from opening schools. They were put in there as guidelines, but you as a school system and you as a community should adopt guidelines that make the most sense for your community. And I want everyone to know the recommendations I've made up to this point have all been driven by data. I'm in constant contact with our local Department of Health, as well as Georgia Emergency Management. I get updates every single day. I will continue to get those updates. So having said that, I am going to ask again, Mr. Purple, to come forward with specifics, but I am asking you tonight to approve this calendar that would delay the start of school for our students by 5 days. As you know, we were originally scheduled to come back to school on August the 6th. I'm asking us for you to approve having our students return, those who are coming back for face-to-face instruction, on August the 13th. The reason I'm asking for this, that will give our teachers 11 days of pre-planning. Our teachers come back on July 29th, so we can be fully prepared to meet the needs of both our virtual students and our face-to-face students. I've heard from our principals, I've heard from teachers, and the message has been loud and clear. This is so different than anything we've ever done before. We might have 20-25% of our entire system, K-12, learning virtually as of August 13th. I don't have that percentage for sure today because, as you know, our grades 6 through 12 has until July 31st to make that decision. But it's trending right now. We are likely to have 20% plus of our entire student body learning virtually. That is so different than anything we've done before. We just need a little more time to prepare for our kids. And Leanne will talk more about how we will utilize those days. But to be clear, our calendar does not reduce any days for students. We just plug them in different spots throughout the calendar, as Mr. Perkle will explain, and does not change any of our work days for our teachers. They still will work 190 days. And the other thing I need to add is for our students who are returning face-to-face, they will begin with guidelines that you have already adopted 2 weeks ago. And all of our schools are working on how to make sure those guidelines work for their individual campuses. You know, and I know, Midway Elementary, Mashburn Elementary is not the same as North Forsyth High School. They're very different campuses. So we have district guidelines, but all of our leadership teams are working with their own guidelines that align with the district guidelines in order for it to work for our students and staff. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Perkle for some of the details around the student calendar proposal.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. So I will run through with you the revisions to the 2021 student calendar. So as Dr. Bearden has alluded to, we added, we extended the start date to August the 13th. So the school will start 1 week later on that date. That extends pre-planning days for staff from July the 29th through August the 12th, which is a total of 11 days. We did add, in these revisions, we did add, I can move it down so you can see it maybe on the screen. We did add one student staff holiday in first semester, which is November the 3rd, which is election day. So this added one holiday for that, which is a total of 6 student days to add back to the calendar. October the 23rd becomes a regular school day. So October the 23rd was a professional staff development day. That now will become a regular school day. So that's one of the days. We moved early release parent conference K-8 to October the 22nd and 23rd. So it just made sense to move that down since we were taking that professional development day. Again, November the 3rd is an election day that will now become a student staff holiday.
So this changes first semester from 87 days to 82. We added the student day back that we took in November. We added that back on January the 5th because we took November the 3rd. And then we moved the staff development day from January the 5th to the 4th. So that was the 2nd. But then we also took January the 4th to become a regular school day. So that's the 3rd student day added back. February the 16th became a regular school day. That was professional development day. So that's the 4th day back. March the 12th becomes a regular school day, which was a professional development day. That's the 5th day. And we moved the early release parent conference K-12 from March the 11th to the 12th, which made seem like aligned better. And then we moved the last day of school from May the 26th to the 27th. So that's the 6th day. And then we took one of the planning days, which was January. We took one of those. They had 2. So May the 27th becomes which is the last day of school now, becomes an early release day due to the fact that there was one post-planning day. And we took that post-planning day because we added those days at the beginning for just the teachers. So that keeps teachers at 190, which is their current contract days. So this changes second semester from 91 days to 96. So again, it's still a total student days of 178. So there's no change for student days with this calendar or staff days as far as that goes.
I absolutely love the changes. I love that we get election day off, which I think is great for everybody to be able to vote and for teachers to have that option to get out there. I think the way that you replaced all the student days is fabulous. With allowing our teachers that extra time to prepare for all their online students and in person. And it still allows those breaks for our students throughout the system, throughout the year, without missing time that they need off. So I think the calendar is fabulous.
That was important for our families in terms of not changing like fall break and spring break, because our families oftentimes plan a year in advance. We wanted to make sure we didn't disrupt that. So if you have any other questions for Mr. Purple, I'd ask Ms. Rice to come forward and talk a little bit more about how we use those pre-planning days.
As Dr. Beard has shared, we are watching our numbers carefully with the virtual registrations. Our elementary schools currently are at about 33% of our participation in virtual. And so we want to ensure that no matter which choice, which option parents are choosing, whether it's a face-to-face option or a virtual option, that our children have an exceptional education. And to do that, our teachers need to be well prepared. What we did last spring was very different than what we will do during this fall or at any time of the year if we need to move to any kind of virtual training. What our teachers and our families experienced in the spring was crisis teaching, moving very quickly with very little preparation. But we did utilize the survey results. We posted surveys for our parents and students to give us feedback on what we did well and what we could do better. And we want to take that data and really use that to make our experience much more exceptional. There were 4 areas where we didn't meet Forsyth County standards. And so we want to make sure that the training we provide teachers this fall will address those areas. In particular, our parents and families rated us either fair or poor in the technical aspects of its learning, being able to utilize the different components of that. They also rated us fair or poor, about a quarter in both of these areas, for the ease of finding lessons in its learning. About 18% of our respondents rated us fair or poor in communication from our teachers. And then we had open-ended questions that very much pointed us in the direction that we need more direct instruction, more synchronous lessons, more live lessons, modeling from our teachers, not just posting assignments, but really interacting with our students. So our proposal is that we focus on 4 main areas that will address these survey results. First, we want to focus on building our teachers' knowledge and our skill set and ensuring that all of our teachers have a consistent basic knowledge, not only in our It's Learning program, but also in the tools and platforms that will enable them to have a virtual classroom and virtual instruction effectively. And then within those skills, we want to emphasize teacher clarity. And in the virtual classroom, that's part of user experience, and it's thinking about what the child is experiencing. So how well organized is the platform in its learning? How easy is it for children and parents to find the lessons and know where to post things and how to do that? We also want to focus on communication, and that means not just communicating through email and to parents and explaining what's going on, but that's your presence in the online classroom. So making sure that teachers are connected with their students and that they have that physical presence with their lessons and their interactivity and communication in that aspect. We also want them providing feedback to the activities that the students are doing. And then the last area revolves around engagement. That was a big part of the feedback that we received. We want there to be interaction, not just between the teacher and the students, but also among the students. And so making sure our teachers know those platforms that they can use that will bring that interactivity, that will give students a voice and let them feel that they're a part of the classroom, even though they're not in the physical building. Our expectations for teachers will revolve around maintaining that strong presence in those online classrooms, that they'll provide meaningful feedback to students, that they'll create a variety of learning opportunities, and that they'll plan collaboratively with their colleagues. What we anticipate is that this training will take a minimum of 15 additional hours. And in a traditional school year with a shorter pre-planning time, that would probably take us 2 to 3 months of faculty meetings and planning time trainings. By giving us these additional 5 days, we can make it happen. And we can ensure that our teachers are trained in the skill sets and the strategies and the knowledge that they need to provide an exceptional experience, no matter which option children choose. We also want to ensure that teachers, whether they're teaching in the face-to-face environment or a virtual environment, that they're incorporating these strategies and skills, and that especially during these first few weeks of school, it will be almost like an onboarding of showing these strategies and skills within the face-to-face classroom. So if at any time we do need to move to a virtual environment, children are prepared. They know what to do, they know how to post things, they know how to interact, and they have that chance to work with their teachers in the face-to-face environment to learn that. So with that, I'm asking that you consider this. I feel like this is a great move for our teachers and our families, and will help ensure our community that no matter what option they're choosing, we'll be prepared to support them.
I'm not sure if you said this, so if you did, forgive me. But one other reason we wanted to delay the start is we want to have an opportunity for our virtual students and perhaps one parent to come in and have a meet and greet in small group setting to meet that teacher face to face, for the teacher to have the opportunity to explain to the virtual student what a typical day will look like and establish those relationships early on. So that was another real important piece to us for our K-5 virtual students, and parents had a chance to meet their teacher face to face.
And I'd also like to say that Leanne has put together some town halls for K-5 virtual. And if you haven't watched them, I watched them both. It is a wealth of information. So it really walks you through day by day, and then she answers just many questions. I think 60 to 75 questions, I think, in the second town hall. That really, if it's not answered there, I'd be amazed, because they did a wonderful job. Her and some of the other people in central office did that. So with that, we have a recommendation as well.
Do you have any questions for?
We also have hundreds of new teachers every year, and having that
Absolutely.
extra time for them in person to mentor each other and
Yes.
to practice and learn, to do that only at home, not have enough time in school before the students come in. They need that time to help each other out. So I think that's very valuable for investing in their time.
And we have some extraordinary teachers who are very adept at technology, and a lot of the training, having that time to collaborate with one another just enhances our staffs.
Yeah, well, I'd say, I mean, I've been working on this for years. We've talked about this, and we put in online learning days instead of snow days. Snow days are gone.
Yes.
So we were ready when this did occur. We still weren't ready.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we found that out. As a virtual worker, I know the workforce is never going to be the same. So that is one important thing that I've been watching as y'all have changed school to be virtual, and understanding what that workforce is going to look like in the future. So it's going to help the kids. For those folks that are virtual, not everybody virtual in the workforce either. So this is a good mixture of that. You know, I know a lot of the teachers struggle because it's not what they went to school to learn how to do.
Right.
But this is something new, and I think these days this just really meshed together appropriately for us to give that teacher a time to accommodate the virtual environment and understand it. And the personal interaction is important too, because even though I started with the company over a year ago and I'm virtual, I was able to get together with people I work with and create relationships. So you can't imagine how that changes the virtual discussions we have now. We know each other and it's different. So I'm totally in agreement with that, and that works well as, and then creates accountability for the students. It allows them to step up to the plate and learn. It's their plan, it's their learning experience. So they can get in there and get involved in this. I'm excited about it. And give them the choice of the community to do what they feel is right for them.
Absolutely.
So thank you for all your work.
Yeah, and I would also say that the extra 5 days to allow the teachers to prepare, I think is very smart. I also think it gives an opportunity for the parents in the community to prepare for school and to also maybe even for us to start asking parents, and I think this is a good opportunity for them to remember to be patient and be supportive. I think this is a perfect time for parents to go to the teachers and say, hey, how can I help you? We're in this together as a community. We know how we're going to plan moving forward. How can I help you? Because it is a community effort in education. And so I think adding those couple of days is going to be really great for the community.
And Wes, thank you for saying that. I think it's important to note too, this is, you know, Tom, as you said as well, this is a new experience for us. And we knew how to do the snow days, the inclement weather days, but teaching for an extended period of time online is a very different thing. And making sure that we hold those high expectations for learning, it's going to be a growth opportunity. And what I respect about our district more than anything is we're very transparent about what we do well, and we're not afraid to share where we might have some downfalls, but we always want to grow and improve. And so I love that we're using our survey data to take that feedback from parents where we didn't meet the standard in the spring, and we'll make sure that we do rise up to that level of expectation in the future.
My final comment before I ask for a vote is, and this is something we're talking about with our staff all the time, you know, we're dealing with an unknown, and so we all have to be prepared to pivot, and I mean all of us, teachers, parents, you name it. I would strongly encourage parents, make sure you have contingency plans in place. Something could happen, and we might have to all go virtual at some point. We don't know that. None of us sitting here know that. We don't want that to happen. We're planning on starting August 13th with virtual and face-to-face, but at some point this fall, if the data dictates that we have to go virtual, everybody, we have to be ready for that. All of us do. Teachers, parents, staff. And so please make sure you have those contingency plans in place. So that I would recommend approval of the revised 2021 school calendar.
We have a recommendation, we have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Tom and a second from Wes. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, motion passes. Next is Joey Kirkland again with the approval of the 2021 employee calendars.
Okay, good afternoon again, and no, I'm not taking over being in charge of employee calendars, but Dr. Salam is not able to be with us this afternoon, so she asked me if I would present this for her. As you know, she's in charge of all of the employee calendars, so she informed me that all of the employee calendars have been amended, and I think you have those to correspond to the new school calendar, which you've just approved. So those calendars, again, it's like the 180, the 182, all of the employees' calendars that we have been amended to match the student calendar. So there are no less days, there are no days taken out or additional days. There were some adjustments made. I believe that she had to make a few adjustments to some of those to meet the changes that we made. So with that, we'll ask the superintendent for a recommendation for employee
calendars.
We have a recommendation, we have a motion. So moved.
Second.
A motion from Kristin and a second from Tom. Any further questions? All in favor? Motion passes. Next, I will turn it over to Dr. Bearden again for the adoption of our governance team goals for FY21.
Okay, we went over this in June, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it, but I am recommending we keep the same goals that we've had in place for this past school year. They have worked really well for us, but to be, again, transparent, We have not met all of our goals, and we believe it is worth spending another year on all four. So goal number one is safety for students and staff. As Mr. Winning pointed out, the security vestibules will all be completed by the time the school year starts. I'm really pleased about that. Our school resource officer program is fully staffed as well. We have a great relationship with our sheriff's office, and you guys know the outstanding work the student advocacy specialists do for us. Goal number two, teach the whole child. Again, social and emotional learning probably has never been more important than it is today. As one of our speakers said this morning, and this afternoon, I completely agree. You know, the social and emotional well-being of our students is critically important, that we tend to their needs, and we are absolutely committed to that. Very proud of our diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. We have begun the search for our DEI specialist, which we hope to bring on board this fall. Thank you again for supporting that work, critically important. We'll continue our work with personalized learning. Goal number three, as Larry has mentioned, you know, we always have effective and efficient financial planning as a goal. We are the only school system in Georgia to have a 5-star financial efficiency rating every single year. That metric has been used, and we should all be proud of that. I'm proud of our AAA bond rating, and we'll work really hard to make sure we maintain it. And then goal number four, one that is also critically important. Many of our schools are quite large, and we work very hard to try to make them feel small, and we want to continue that work. So with that, I would recommend that we continue with all four of these goals for the 2021 school year.
We have a recommendation, we have a motion. Second, we have a motion from Wes and a second from Kristin. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? And this motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Next, Wes McCall will be presenting the Forsyth County Homeless Youth Council presentation.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity.
Do you want to go ahead first?
No, I'm good right here.
One slide.
I want to start with a shout out to Dr. Bearden and his staff that's led by Ms. Debbie Smith and Ms. Kim Coular and the entire social worker team. They're just amazing people who serve with compassion every day for every student. And as you know, in January, Ms. Coular came to our annual retreat and gave us a inside look of the growing concern of the homeless youth in Forsyth County. And she did a great job and presented an action plan that was amazing. It was going to really help these students. And then COVID-19 happened, and it turned the entire Forsyth County school system into overdrive to really try to address and help homeless youth. They provided technology, they provided food, and even coordinated shelter for some of them during this time. The other thing COVID-19 did was it limited our resources as a board when it came to our budget and being able to add additional personnel. However, I think as a board, we can still provide help not only to the homeless youth, but to the staff of the Forsyth County school system. And I would like to share with you an idea to pass a resolution to create the Forsyth County Homeless Youth Council. And as you can see up there, Forsyth County is very fortunate and blessed to have a variety of resources available. However, there's not one entity or group that really focuses on homeless youth. There are several that focuses on a little bit here and there, but it's time that we need a entity or a group or a council to come together to really align those resources. So the purpose is really to create a council made up of community leaders that can help align and establish resources to help the growing homeless youth population in Forsyth County. Our mission will be to align resources for the homeless youth in Forsyth County. We've established 5 goals that you can see here. The first goal is to identify the immediate need, and then the long-term needs of the homeless youth in Forsyth County. And then go ahead and start identifying the available resources in Forsyth County, the state of Georgia, and then nationally that can help really address the homeless youth in Forsyth County. And then we would establish which organizations would be responsible for which resource and identify those partners. And the idea there would be that if we have a need, we can immediately address it to the resource and the partner is going to be responsible for that need. And then create 4 ways to support and promote partner organizations. And then the fifth and final one is to create a long-term plan for the homeless youth council. Real quick, just to kind of go over what the resolution I would like for it to show is that the homeless youth council should consist of a chairperson, which would always be a VOE member. One of us on this board could serve as that chairperson of the homeless youth council. We would have a secretary, which would be held by the member of the council, Forsyth County School Homeless Education Liaison, Forsyth County School Lead School Social Worker, a Forsyth County Student Support Director, the Associate Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, a member of the Place of Forsyth, who has been a huge partner. We actually met with Domi and a group of us about a month ago to come over this plan, and they're just huge advocates of it. Talked with the sheriff. The sheriff would like to have himself or a representative from the sheriff's department on the board, along with Mayor Bungalow with the city of Cumming and possibly a representative from the Cumming Police Department. And then we're going to open it up to a couple of the local clergy and some local business communities. The idea is to have a meeting every quarter, and we can present whenever you guys need some questions or something like that. But we would meet quarterly to achieve those 5 goals.
Recommendation to support the Forsyth County Homeless Youth Council.
Well, I certainly do recommend we support it, and I also want to thank Wes for his passion. Not only did he want to put this resolution together, he wants to be an integral part of this youth council, which I admire you for doing that. Every child needs a champion, and in Forsyth County, unfortunately, we have a significant number of homeless children. We have homeless children in our community that literally couch surf from night to night. They live with one family for 2 or 3 days, and the next day they're somewhere else. They don't know from week to week where they're going to be. And to put together this youth council, to have a coordinated effort to make sure those kids know that this community cares for them, supports them, loves them, and is going to be a champion for them, I think is huge. And I'm so proud of this, and I think we're going to do some great work in this community. So thank you, Wes, and I definitely recommend approval.
We have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion from Wes and a second from Tom. Any further questions or comments? It's a great idea. Appreciate you doing so.
Yeah, it's a need, and it's the only way we can fix it. You know, we've got to work as a community and coordinating that makes a lot of sense.
I think one of the things we learned at our retreat was we know that there's homeless families. When you think about a lot of times children being out with their parents, one of the things that we learned at the retreat was I didn't realize how many homeless children there were that did not have unaccompanied minors. I think it was the one that was, we didn't realize how many children did not have an adult that was out there. And I think that was what really
So,
even more to know that
at the end of the school year, the 1920 school year, there was 97 unaccompanied youth, which means they had no adult guardianship with them at all.
And people, I mean, I don't think most of us don't even think about that in our community, that we have 97 unaccompanied homeless youth. That doesn't, we have hundreds that fall into the category of homeless, and 97 that are completely on their own. And this will help them tremendously.
Any comments? If not, all in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Passes. Thank you. Place of information, Dr. Bearden, anything?
Nothing else to add.
Okay, yeah, at this time, do we have a motion to go into executive session for personnel for our data and land issues?
So moved.
Then motion from Tom, and a second from Wes. All in favor? Motion passes.